Hi, guys. The other topic I wanted to talk about this week is another topic that we talked about right before we left for the break, and that's transformations of quadratics. So I did write on here a reminder of what we're going to look at. This is vertex form, and we are going to look at the parent function, which is the simplest form of a quadratic, which is x squared. Linears also have a parent function, which obviously is the most simple, just x. And that x squared is going to have a vertex at the origin, and it's going to be a positive parabola, meaning it's facing upwards. And so that's what we're going to kind of compare all these other quadratics to. Remember the pieces of vertex form. The a value, the number in front of the parentheses, is what makes the parabola stretch, which makes it really skinny, or compress, which makes it wider. The h value is what moves it horizontally, so left to right, and that's when we want to think about the inside as opposite. So if it's saying minus a number, that's actually going to move it to the right, and if we say plus a number, that's actually going to move it to the left. And the k value outside the parentheses is going to move that parabola up and down. So if we're talking about the horizontal again, we're moving left to right. So if we're moving in left, if the minus h is less than 0, so meaning it's going to be a positive, right, moving left, and then moving right for greater than 0. And then the vertical shift, and when it says less than 0, I don't want you to get confused here. That means it's going to be x minus a negative number, and that minus negative would make it positive. And then vertical, again, is moving it up and down. So if we look at letter A, I have a +3 inside the parentheses. Remember, inside is moving it left to right. And if it's a positive number, it's going to be moving it to the left, and specifically left 3 units. And then that 1 outside the parentheses is going to move our parabola up 1 unit. And if we look at letter B, -2 inside the parentheses is going to move right 2 units. And then that -1 outside the parentheses is going to move us down 1 unit. So that's just right, or vertical and horizontal shifts on those quadratics, those transformations. So if we look at this transformation, this is the graph of the parent function. So we want to graph this new function. So right now, what's graphed is x squared. So if we want to graph this new function, we want to take this entire graph, and because it's +2 outside the parentheses, we want to shift that entire graph up 2 units. So my vertex will now be here, up 2 units, up 2 units, up 2 units, and we want to kind of draw, again, bear with me, the best parabola we can. So that purple parabola is going to be that new x squared +2. Same thing, similar to this one though, but that 2x is going to take that parabola and it's going to make it very skinny. So instead of my point is still going to be at 0, 0, because I'm not moving left or right or up or down. I'm just going to take my other values. Instead of 1, 1, I'm going to now be at 1, 2. I'm going to double it. And instead of at 2, 4, I'm going to be all the way at 2, 8, which is all the way up here. And it's going to mirror on the other side. So it is going to be a lot skinnier of a parabola, a stretched parabola. When we think stretch, make sure you think vertical stretch. Like if I take my hair tie and I vertically stretch it, it becomes a lot more skinny. All right. The next one, now I'm doing the opposite. I'm taking half. So again, I'm not moving left, right, up, or down. So my vertex is going to be the same. But I'm going to take half of all my y values. So at 1, I'm no longer at 1. I'm going to be at half. At 2, I'm not going to be at 4. I'm going to be at half, which would be at 2. At 3, I'm not going to be at 9 any longer. I'm going to be at like 4.5. So that's what this one is going to look like. It's just going to be like half as wide. I want to draw that out like this. So it's taking it and it's compressing my parabola. It's squishing it so that it's wider. Okay, so x -2 inside the parentheses. Remember, our -2 is going to move our parabola to the right. Oops, sorry, I'm backwards. Right. And so I want to move my vertex 2 units to the right, and I'm going to do my best to move these other points 2 units to the right to draw my new parabola. So remember, my red parabola, the original one, is our parent function of x squared. And then we're using that parent function to shift. And remember, we're using that parent function to shift it over 2 units to make that purple parabola. Okay, let's look at another one. So this other one is x plus 2 squared. So kind of the opposite of the previous problem. So right now we have our x squared parent function drawn. And we want to take it and we want to shift all of the points to the left 2 units to make our new parabola, which is f of x equals x plus 2 squared. Again, I hope you can draw your parabola a little bit better than I can, but I'm doing my best. All right, and then the last problem I want to look at is we just want to name all of the transformations of this function from our parent function x squared. So how are we changing from x squared to get this new function? The first thing that I notice is it's being multiplied by -2. And actually that does 2 things. One thing is it's going to vertically stretch it, because it's stretching because that number is bigger than 1. If it's a fraction smaller than 1, it's going to compress it. So vertical stretch by 2. And then we actually have that negative. And if you don't remember, that negative is going to make that parabola going from upward facing to downward facing. And it's actually going to be reflection. So it's going to reflect it. And then we have +1 inside the parentheses. So remember, that's going to move our parabola left 1 unit. And then we have a -1 outside the parentheses. So that's going to move our parabola down 1 unit. All right. And that's all I'm going to do to go back over transformations. Remember, that is something we talked about like right before we got up for spring break. But please don't hesitate to text me on Remind or email if you have any questions. Bye, guys.